This is KUGAN CASSIUS for IFL TV in association with MTK Global. We're in New York City for the press conference for Terence Crawford's fight with Amir Khan on April the 20th. I'm delighted to be joined by Mr. Bob Arum. How are you, sir?
Good, very good. Nice to be here in New York because I was born here, and it's always nice to come back.
Absolutely. Everyone loves New York, Bob. Is this a close indication of where the fight will end up, that the press conference is here?
No, I don't think. I think it really depends on the deals that are on the table, both with MGM and with Madison Square Garden, and that decision will be made early next week. I'd love the fight to be in New York. It's great, but I live in Las Vegas where MGM is, so it's equally great for the fight to be in Las Vegas.
Was this fight ever discussed at any point to take place in the UK, Bob?
No, not really. You have to understand the problem. A lot of the revenue that we're going to need to pay the fighters comes from U.S. pay-per-view. And if you do the fight in the U.K., because of the difference in time, the fight would be on in the afternoon in the United States, and you can't do pay-per-view business in the afternoon.
Talking to Eddie Hearn recently, obviously he said in terms of what will happen with the broadcast is kind of dependent from Sky side what happens with Anthony Joshua on April the 13th. Is that something you're kind of waiting for to see what happens with that in regards to the TV rights in the UK?
Yeah, we're happy we have it distributed by BT, but since Eddie was so gracious to accede to Amir Khan's wishes to fight Terence Crawford in the United States, we agreed to give him a shot at the UK television, and that will be dependent on whether Joshua fights the week before. If he fights the week before, Eddie can't use Sky as the vehicle, and therefore we'd go with our usual partners, BT Television.
How many buys do you believe Crawford-Khan does here in the US on ESPN?
You remember, you're talking about ESPN. Throw out everything that's conventional wisdom. We have in ESPN the biggest megaphone in sports. I mean, every person who cares about sports at one time or another, maybe during the day or during the week, puts on ESPN, whether it's Sports Center, whether it's a basketball game, a football game. And therefore, the megaphone that ESPN has is enormous. ESPN, as you can see, why we're holding the press conference at the new headquarters of ESPN and this beautiful seaport location. ESPN is 1,000% behind this event, will distribute the pay-per-view, and we think we will do numbers that will far exceed anybody's expectation. I'm confident that because of ESPN, we'll do more than 1 million homes here.
That's quite a strong statement, Bob.
Yeah, well, I think, it's justified. I mean, we knew we could see what our fights were doing previous to this when we were on HBO and other platforms. As soon as we got to ESPN, we started doubling and tripling what our ratings had been before. And that was no accident, and it wasn't because we were doing things necessarily better. It was because we were on a platform that had a megaphone. The important thing about when you promote boxing, you have to have a megaphone. That's one of the problems that the Zone has, that they're, picking up and distributing very good fights, and Eddie is a good promoter, but he has no megaphone here in the United States because he doesn't have a linear outlet like ESPN.
I think the megaphone is Eddie Hearn himself, actually, isn't it, Bob?
Well, Eddie Hearn himself, maybe for people in boxing who, read up on these texts, is a pretty good megaphone, but that doesn't really make a dent into the public at large. I mean, when you have an ESPN plugging an event and you get 2 million, 3 million, 4 million viewers watching the plug-in, Eddie Hearn can't outdo that, as good as he is.
Speaking of Mr. Eddie Hearn, do you know why he wasn't present at today's press conference here in New York, Bob?
Yeah, we had breakfast with him this morning. So he was in New York, but he left. He had to make a quick visit to Puerto Rico to talk to Paco Valcárcel, the president of WBO, about certain matters. So Eddie is on a plane to Puerto Rico now. I mean, it's good to be young. He's flying to Puerto Rico this morning, and he's going to fly back tonight to New York because he has an event on Saturday.
Friday's tomorrow night.
Yeah, Friday, right.
Bob, can you just kind of take me through the process of how this fight was actually made between Terence and Amir? It was a big shock when it was kind of even touted in the media that this was a potential fight. All the talk in the UK was between a potential fight between Kell Brook and Amir Khan. So what was the kind of process to kind of putting this fight to Eddie and Matchroom and Amir Khan?
Well, initially we weren't met with a lot of enthusiasm on the Amir Khan side. We talked with his lawyer, and then a gentleman named Billy Keane, who lives in Los Angeles, who's friendly with Amir Khan, said he'd take a shot at it, flew over to the UK, and spent 2 weeks with Amir Khan, and he was the intermediary that enabled the deal to happen. Without Billy being here, being in the UK, speaking to Amir Khan every day, believe me, the fight never would have happened.
Bob, can you give us a little update on any discussions you're having with Frank Warren regarding Oscar Valdez and Josh Warrington? Josh Warrington has a mandatory with Kid Galahad. The purse bids are expected soon, but there's talk of a potential fight between Valdez and Warrington.
Well, Valdez is fighting February 2nd in Dallas on the card that headlines Kovalev and Alvarez, the rematch. And they're quite keen on fighting Warrington, the Valdez people. The question is whether we do it in the UK or we do it in the United States. And I had lunch with Frank after the press conference, Amir Khan Crawford press conference in London, and we're talking about it. We'll see what Warrington is going to do.
Thoughts on this weekend's fight between Mr. Manny Pacquiao and Adrian Broner, Bob?
Well, you have to realize, for over 10 years, I was not only Manny Pacquiao's promoter, but his very good friend. Now I'm not promoting Manny Pacquiao, but I'm still his good friend. So I, wish only the best for Manny. I hope he comes through in the fight and wins the fight. But the fact is, I haven't been following his training because I've been busy, and I don't know how Broner's been training, so I'm not really able to give a prognosis on the fight. But as I say, I just wish Manny, who's one of the nicest people I've ever met in boxing or out of boxing, the best of luck.
When does Mr. Bob Arum slow down?
When they dig those 6 feet into the ground and they drop the coffin in, I guess I would have slowed down at that point. But while I'm able to do this, it's more fun for me than anything else. So it's not a question of doing something which is a pain in the butt. This is doing something that I like to do. And if you like to do it, and you like to do it more than anything else, why would you stop if you didn't have to?
It's a wonderful answer. Mr. Arum, thank you very much for your time. And, wherever it is on April the 20th, it's going to be a great fight. And whether it lands here in New York or over in Vegas, it's going to be a wonderful occasion.
Well, if it lands here in New York, it's great because Saturday night would be the fight, and Sunday everybody can join the Easter parade, you know, the famous Easter parade on Fifth Avenue.
I'm sure they will. Thank you very much, Mr. Arum.
Thank you.